Today, we're talking about Hugh Hefner, the man, the myth, the bathrobe, founder of Playboy, self-proclaimed sexual revolutionary, and real-life crypt keeper. He built an empire on peroxide blonde hair and misogyny. He spent decades cosplaying as a feminist, all the while emotionally curb-stomping every woman within a 50-foot radius of his dirty little mansion. So buckle up, bunny, because we're about to peel back the satin sheets and take a long, uncomfortable look at the original nice guy and the women he destroyed. Hi, welcome to Tyler's Kitchen, the show where I hope to roast the subject of the episode at least as much as whatever recipe I'm fucking up. Hugh Hefner is about as much of a sexual pioneer as chlamydia is at a frat party. Hugh Hefner said he was a feminist, just like Colonel Sanders said he was a member of PETA. Let's be honest, the only thing Hefner advanced was Stockholm Syndrome. Today we're making bunny cupcakes, and because it's my show and I can do what I want, we're cutting some corners. So I went to Ralph's and I got pre-made cupcakes. And yes, I sprung for the Hello Kitty ones because look how cute! Oh my gosh. Oh no, guys, this is bad. It's whipped frosting. And if you know me, you know that I think whipped frosting is a crime against humanity. This stuff is disgusting. As a true sugar connoisseur, absolutely not. Ugh. Everybody knows buttercream or bust, or cream cheese frosting. That's A tier. Buttercream B tier, whipped frosting, don't play in my face with this shit. Oh well, I guess I will be able to have a healthy relationship with it then. So you're going to take your rings off of the cupcakes and you're going to collect them onto your fingers. Like so. All I know is bread and bands. If we ain't talking money, I don't want to talk. Thanks for letting me have that moment, y'all. I needed it. Now I'm going to take these giant marshmallows I found at the store. Look how fun these are. Ginormous. So who even is Hugh Hefner? Hugh M. Hefner was born in Chicago in 1926 to German parents, Glenn, an accountant, and Grace, a strict Methodist teacher. So the woman who raised America's most notorious bachelor wanted him to grow up and become a missionary. I guess you could say he spent lots of time in missionary. During World War II, Hef served as a writer for the newspaper. After the war, he goes to college and he's able to graduate in like 2.5 years. And I know what you're thinking. This isn't the first time he's finished in 2. And he studied psychology with a double minor in creative writing and art. He then tries to go to grad school at Northwestern, but he then drops out. By 1952, Hef was working at Esquire magazine. One day he asked for a $5 raise and they said no. So like any rational person, he quit his job to focus on exploiting women. I do have to say, this is like Hitler not getting into art school. Like, could you imagine how much better the world would be if Hef just got that $5 raise from Esquire? I go back in time, get a job at Esquire so that I can give Hef his $5 raise so that the rest of humanity is freed from the shackles of Playboy misogyny. Okay, so see how this kind of makes bunny ear shapes? Cute, right? So now what I'm gonna do is it's a little bit sticky on the inside. And if it's not sticky enough, you dirty people! So I'm taking this pink sanding sugar and I'm just gonna dump it onto this plate in a pile. And then we're just gonna kind of roll the marshmallow in that. If this doesn't work, I think I'll just put some water on it and it will be fine. He then crowdfunds $8,000 like a college freshman trying to buy a pack of White Claw and launches Playboy in 1953 using Marilyn Monroe's unauthorized nude photos. 50,000 copies were sold and she didn't get a dime. He really is a genius for this because most young men share women's nudes for free. So we're just taking this and I'm gonna dip it into this sanding sugar. Wait, this totally worked. Look, that's like a cute little bunny ear. And then the other one. How cute! Some bunnies winning. So then I'm just gonna angle it on top. Ooh, this is a really big marshmallow, maybe too big. Okay, this is too heavy, so I think I'm gonna cut this down even more. So let's try a skinnier marshmallow situation. This is probably how it has to be. Okay, that's pretty cute. It kind of looks like a butterfly though. How about we put these in the freezer while we make the ears? So now let's get into the long list of women that Hugh Hefner left behind. Hugh Hefner's first wife was Millie Williams, who he was married to from 1949 to 1959. Millie and Hugh were college sweethearts. But before their wedding, she admitted that she had cheated on them while he was away at war. In spite of this, they stayed together for 10 years and ended up having 2 children together. By all accounts, their divorce was amicable, and she has not spoken about him publicly, and she really just took her life out of the spotlight. Throughout their marriage, they were both cheating on each other multiple times. In an interview, when asked about the Millie cheating scandal, he said, "The episode hung like a cloud over me until the marriage, and nothing was ever the same between us again. It was the most devastating moment of my life." And all this goes to show men will literally build a multimedia sex empire instead of going to therapy. It's crazy because this isn't even the most dramatic reaction to a breakup a man has had before. This girl had an affair and he said it rocked his world. He had 1,000 affairs and he said it was research. This is the only time that it's ever worked out for a man to open up his relationship. I'm just saying. Like Clockwork, the guy who goes, I'm just not monogamous. Every single time it works out. He realizes that he has no play and his girlfriend is hot. That's my favorite reckoning. Oh, I love that. Next, I want to talk about Barbie Benton. Now, he dated Barbie from 1969 to 1976. Barbie was an actress and model who started working for the show Playboy After Dark when she was 18 years old as a UCLA student. When I see an 18-year-old, especially like walking around UCLA campus, I'm like, that is a child. How are they putting them on Playboy After Dark TV? What? Nonetheless, she begins as an extra on the show. Hugh Hefner sees her, falls in love with her, and promotes her to co-host. After recording 2 episodes, Hugh finally swoops in with his advance. At this time, Hugh was 42 years old. She was 18, he was 42. 18, 42, he could have been her dad. She reported that when he asked her out, she said, "I don't know, I've never dated anyone over 24 years old before." And he said, "Neither have I." Gross. That joke aged like, well, none of his girlfriends. I guess in his defense, he was kind of being bold by dating a brunette. What's weird is that they actually stayed friends for life. She's one of the only women to come out of Playboy and be really positive about it. She even was on episodes of Girls Next Door. She's always been positive in interviews, but here's the thing. I'm not buying her crock of shit. It's like when your grandma explains how she met your grandpa and it's a story that to her is so cutesy, but to you, you're like, oh my God, that's stalking, that's harassment, I would have called the police. And she's like, no, it was sweet.
You know, your grandpa followed me home for 6 miles every day. And I said, no, 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 I have a boyfriend. And he said, I don't care, I'm here now. And then after that, he'd show up at my house every day with flowers. And I told him I'm not interested, but he just kept showing up. So one day I finally gave him a chance.
And you're like, Grandma, that's literally stalking. So that's how I feel about Barbie Benton. In 2006, Barbie Benton was quoted to say, "He wasn't really planning on getting married. I knew that. I also knew it would never last forever." Around this time, the 70s, he really starts getting into his I date lots of women. This is when the Playboy clubs are really coming to the forefront of culture and he's really gaining his star. He dates a woman named Sandra Theodore, who was a Playboy. In an A&E docuseries, Sandra Theodore, a Playmate from 1976, was quoted saying, "He broke me. He took away my innocence. I wasn't allowed to be myself. Everything had to be his way." I wanted to skip forward to the 80s and 90s when he's really in his harem era. Now, this is when the mansion could have used an HR team. From the early 80s to 90s, Hef was notorious for keeping multiple girlfriends living in his mansion at all times. Because why have one emotionally unstable 21-year-old girlfriend when you can have 5? This is like the worst sorority house ever. Carrie Lee was a Playmate who lived with Hef for 5 years. She ended up suing Hef for palimony and emotional distress after leaving in the late 1980s. In her Los Angeles Superior Court suit, former Canadian model Carrie Lee, 24, claims Hefner promised her full financial support, including a $60,000 a year allowance, a Malibu beach home, and a credit card allowance in return for being his companion, social hostess, and confidant after she moved into the Playboy mansion in Holmby Hills in 1983. This suit states that Hefner has not only cut off support but also failed to medically and scientifically store a sufficient amount of his own sperm in a sperm bank in order to impregnate her, as he allegedly promised to do in 1985. Hefner 61 years old at the time, claimed all the allegations of marriage, children, a house, and support were complete fabrication, and he labeled the suit a publicity stunt. Now, based on everything I know about the Playboy girls, about Hugh Hefner, and this, guys, this is something that I am very fixated on. This is he totally said that, he totally did that, he totally promised her these things. There's no doubt in my fucking mind that he didn't say, I'm getting you a Malibu beach house, this, and this. There's no way he didn't do that. I'm so sorry. He absolutely agreed to those things. And then for him to gaslight her publicly, like, whoa, you're being crazy. I would never say that, even though I've said it multiple times to multiple women over multiple years. At the end of the day, her palimony suit was dismissed because the courts could not find a legal basis to support financial claims. Emotional distress was also unsuccessful. The court found insufficient grounds to proceed, largely because her claims didn't meet the legal threshold for intentional infliction of emotional distress. Now, this was in the 80s. I think if this were done today, things would go a lot differently. Guys, it's no coincidence he drops women right after their prefrontal cortex develops. If you look into the lawsuit, it reveals plenty of expectations of non-consensual experiences, of sexual and psychological coercion, and when you compile that with everything every woman to come out of Playboy has said, you go, yep, that checks out. Let's talk about the era that probably most of you are acquainted with. This is the Girls Next Door era. This is the early 2000s. Kendra, Bridget, Holly. I loved watching this show. I'm part of the generation that found Girls Next Door on streaming services and watched it not when it was in its hype phase. But honestly, I fell in love with the show. I just think the girls are so fun and cute, and they really romanticize, like, wow, they live in this mansion in Los Angeles and they just get to throw cute parties and they're all friends and they live together. That sounds amazing. It's so crazy that they glamorized this lifestyle. They made it sound so fun. Like, wow, they're doing a pool party and they need to go get a cute outfit for the pool party and they're surprising Hef with a birthday cake. What a fun week. Meanwhile, now that I've read all their books, I know it was crying, sobbing, being trapped, trying to escape, not being able to escape. They can't talk to their family. They all have eating disorders. Not good. Not as good as the show makes it look. This era was like Big Brother if everybody was blonde and on diet pills. Holly Madison, who was kind of like the lead of the show, is probably the most outspoken critic. She has a book called Down the Rabbit Hole, and she has a podcast with Bridget called Girls Next Level. I love her so much. I just feel like I am her in many ways. Like, we have all the same interests. Holly Madison, call me. Come on the show. Let's hang out. Girl, let's go to the Madonna Inn together. Like, she is just everything to me, you know? Holly Madison explained feelings of feeling brainwashed by the mansion. In her book, she detailed mandatory nights where girls were just randomly taken into the group and forced to take and have with Hugh Hefner. What was even more gross is it was like an initiation thing where they were expected to do it to get on the inn with the group. And he was just constantly giving people quaaludes, which he referred to as thigh openers, like a freaky little Candyman. So gross. Ugh. The only thing worse I could ever imagine is being asked to go to Burning Man. He explained the crazy strict rules they had to follow based on wardrobe and curfew and money. They couldn't have jobs.
It's a very different story between when we were just like by ourselves than like with everybody else in the room. Everybody else in the room, no, that was disgusting. I hated it. I made it very known. I hated it.
My hair was really long naturally, and I was just like, I'm gonna go chop my hair off so I can at least look a little different. I came back with short hair, and he flipped out on me, and he was screaming at me and said it made me look old, hard, and cheap.
And keep in mind, most of these girls are girls who don't really have an option to run. Like, for example, Holly didn't have a good credit score. She was new to LA. She couldn't get an apartment. And the thought of leaving was just, they didn't have very many resources to fall on. Like, they didn't have jobs. They weren't allowed to keep savings. Hugh Hefner would give them an allowance of $1,000 a week, and they would track how they spent it. And the girls were expected to spend that $1,000 on hair, nails, clothes. And if there was extra, they would just take it back because they didn't want the girls to build a stockpile of money to leave. Or if they got a car, it was leased so that they could take it back if the girls tried to run. Kendra, who got acquainted with Hugh Hefner when she was only 18 years old, said, I was a lost soul. I had to be very drunk or very medicated to get through the nights there. She called life at the mansion empty. She said, we weren't allowed to show emotion. Everything had to be happy, sexy, fun. Keep in mind, the Girls Next Door show elevated the Playboy brand. It had not been relevant in years, and this was its comeback. These girls were the renaissance of Hugh Hefner's entire professional life, and for the first season, they weren't even paid. And then finally, Bridget, who, she's also so sweet and cute. She does the podcast with Holly. She said, it was incredibly mentally straining and friendships were forbidden. We were discouraged from from bonding because only Hef mattered. Classic manipulation technique. He's not a visionary. He's every girl's college boyfriend. We know this one. No, but he would on purpose pit the girls against each other so that they would be fighting and he would feel special. And all the girls in their memoirs have talked about this. Their beefs have even gone to current day. Former victims of Hugh Hefner are still beefing with one another because of the way he set that up. And who set that system up? So now that I've made my bunny ears, I'm gonna hope that this is firmed up and I'm gonna put these back in. Maybe if I had like a toothpick or something, this would go better. But I don't, so this is what you get. Choose. Trying to make some bunny cupcakes. This seemed like it was foolproof. Look how cute this looks. Now I'm gonna throw these in the freezer so that they stay intact, and I hope they just like lock into place. This is what we're working with. So now we're gonna do my favorite step of any project, melting chocolate. But I did get meltable chocolate, which will make my life easier. After the Girls Next Door era came Crystal Harris. When she was only 26 years old, she got hitched to an 86-year-old Hugh Hefner. Age gap! More like an age gate. At first, she called off the engagement, but then she felt so much pressure from tabloids, and Hef was trying desperately to get her back and make it happen, and she went through with it. Girl, this is like if Get Out were sponsored by Viagra. Girl, those aren't cold feet. That's common sense. Put on the sneakers and go! She has publicly described her life in the mansion as losing herself. She said, I was living in a bubble, I wasn't allowed to grow, everything was for show. And get this, she was left out of his will. Left out of the will? When you're 26 years old marrying an 86-year-old, what? Lock in. Oh my God. If you were marrying an 86-year-old evil millionaire, don't just gold dig. Bring the shovel, bring the pickaxe, bring heavy equipment. Oh my God. So what I wanted to do with this is I wanted to put chocolate into a Ziploc bag and like use it to like pipe little bows so that it could look dapper like I do. But that seems like really annoying. I don't know. I just don't know how I do that. This doesn't seem super melty. Should I put it in for longer? Kind of smells like dog food. Girl, what is happening? Yes. Okay. This is going better than I thought. So I'm gonna cut a little bit of a hole on this and then I'm gonna pipe like a bow. So a bow is basically like 2 triangles of the circle. So this feels doable. Then you gotta work fast before your chocolate burns your hands, like it's happening to me right now. I just need one of these to turn out good, you know? I'm like Willy Wonka if he were stupid. That really didn't turn out great. So you take your bow ties that you've done and you throw them in the freezer. Ugh, damn it. Hefner passed away in 2017, and fun fact, he was buried next to Marilyn Monroe. What a freak. He's literally torturing women even from beyond his existence. Let her rest in peace. Oh my God. After his death, many women started being more open about their experience with Playboy, former playmates, girlfriends, even just like actresses, models who had interacted with him. And since then, the Playboy brand has been called into question. Playboy now has new ownership and they've kind of rebranded it as like a shitty OnlyFans competitor. One thing that I cannot stand is that we're being sold this lie that's like,
Hugh Hefner was a democratic, free speech, liberal warrior so ahead of his time, propelling women's rights and civil rights movements and sexual liberation.
like, no, bro. He essentially had concubines for decades that he just like tortured, trapped, threatened for years. In my book, he's certainly no SJW. And I think it's so stupid that we masquerade around. Like, when I see girls wearing Playboy merchandise, I'm like, really? Why? Why do you want to walk around, you know, wearing that emblem of misogyny and gross? Like, what? So now we have our little chocolate things. They've hardened and I'm gonna pop them off. So if you were a better woman than me, you would have a better shape out of this, but I'm just myself. So then I would put this on the front of the cupcake. I'm gonna take my best bow tie, which is none of them, and I'm just gonna pop it here. See, it's just like me. It's a little Playboy bunny. The little bow here. And there you have it. Look how cute. This is so cute. I love it. Oh my gosh. Yay. I'll call that a win. I'm being very generous to myself these days. I'm an oldest daughter. I need to give myself a break sometimes, and this is it. So let me have it, and don't talk about the food waste, you assholes. I'm learning a new skill, and also, even when it doesn't turn out, I still eat it. So go eat it and weep. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel. Oh, and also I'm loving seeing you guys on Instagram. It's so cute when you share a little story watching it. I'm kikiing with y'all, reposting the stories. I love it. It's whipped frosting, so it's not that good. Really actually bad.